want to call to order the East Ascension Gravity Drainage District Number 1 Board of Commissioners meeting for April 7th, 2008. Roll call. Everyone's present. We have an invocation. Mr. Valentine, would you lead us in invocation?
Yes, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord God. We thank you for life, Lord Father. We thank you for family, Father. We thank you for friends, Lord, and associates. Lord, we ask you to bless this meeting tonight as we make decisions that is pertinent to our parish and our citizens. And we ask that we do it in a sober mind with, Lord, with you at heart. And we ask all these things in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to announce now that any public comments, if anyone wishing to speak, please come up to the podium and fill out a card and pass it to the secretary, please. We have a 2/3 edition that's coming up for the agenda.
If you'd like, Chairman, I'll explain that.
Okay.
We're doing these closings on Henderson Bayou, and there's some minor discrepancies in what the descriptions were by the surveyors, which is what we were authorized to sign by, in the actual legal description. And we're doing this. We just need to have and we've authorized us to sign as per the packages we provided y'all last week. But the true legal description is in some spaces maybe very minor, if all very minor, different than that. And we just need authority for the chairman to sign with the proper legal description.
Move to put on the agenda.
All in favor? Any opposition? Motion passes. We'll put it on the agenda as item number 4.5. All right. The floor entertains a motion to accept the minutes of March 10th meeting, 2008.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Moved by Benny Johnson, second by Todd Lambert. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? So moved. Pass. Now we'll have our drainage report. Mr. Rue?
Okay. The motion, the 2/3 motion, when we're going to have that?
I apologize.
Okay.
That's when we're going to have it right now.
You want me to read the motion as I've written? Okay. As written, to authorize the chairman to sign the sale documents for property with proper legal descriptions associated with the Henderson Bayou Basin Flood Protection Project, as approved at the March 10th, 2008 Commission meeting, and to task order SJB Group to correct the survey on the acquisition from David A. LeBlanc to show a fee title acquisition rather than a right-of-way acquisition.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Mr. Shake Snyder, second by Mr. Todd Lambert. Any discussion? I would just like to point out that the package that we had last month, any dollar values, anything for the land, none of that changed. It's just basically some legal description. Motion passes. Now for our drainage reports.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, major project, Marvinboro Pumping Station projects, the cover that is being designed by BKI is on schedule, and they're giving you a handout that has information in it. You can go over exactly where they're at on that, but they are on schedule for the cover. The pumps addition, also BKI, Burt Klein Peter, is on schedule, and as in that your handout also, so you can review exactly the situation and status of that project. Henderson Bayou Basin Flood Protection Project, again, as with the other two, that's CDI, Camp Dresser McGee, CDM rather, and it is also on schedule. We had a meeting today, and it has a report in there as well. We're going through the next major point on That project is actually doing a hydraulic model. It's already constructed. I guess the main portion of it is constructed, and they're going to be going through the analysis with the model probably in about a month. And once we get that in, we have more definitive data on exactly what kind of pumps, what size pumps, and what size station would be needed at that location. Law Ridge levee extension and the extension and the existing levee projects again is in your packet for the handout. The status of that project, it is also on schedule. We will probably be proceeding with the existing levee, the modification to it and upgraded it before the end of the year. Get started on that. The extension, hopefully we get to some acquisition, meeting with the people within several months, and begin the process of acquiring the right-of-way. We're holding out away from actually getting into any kind of construction now. Our main point on that is to acquire the right-of-way and have it tied up, and then come back to the commission and we'll reason on as per what we'll do after that point.
Mr. Chairman, can I?
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Mr.
Mr.
Lambert.
Bill, on this particular part of the levee, the extension, I don't know if everybody's familiar with that area, but if we move on with that extension, we're going to have issues at the lake back there because it's going to put a wall right there. If we don't finish the levee all the way to Summerfield, we're going to have an issue, and I'm sure that's what you're looking at, saying we're just getting the right-of-ways and stuff right now, because I think it's going to have to be an all-in-one project or none at all in order to keep the people from Lake Martin in that area from flooding.
Exactly. So, Commissioner and Chairman Kluwat had the same sentiments on where we're at and where we should go with this project. And that's what we determined we need to go. We never buy the property or acquire the property at a lesser cost than what it is right now, I don't think. And we need to go ahead and tie it up before it's any more encroachment. But we will regroup after that and look at the money situation from our other projects, what money we can get from outside funding, what money we can save on the projects that's ongoing, and look at actually going to the next phase, which is acquiring right-of-way all the way to at least to the Lake High Ridge by Lake Martin, and seeing about tying up a right-of-way through that area. And at each point in time, we'll regroup and see what kind of money we have and keep moving forward with that project.
Appreciate it, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Thank you, Mr. Rue. And also, as a parish council, we can also let's take a good look at that and see if we have any zoning issues that's affecting us right now, any portions of land that we could possibly hedge off. Because the longer we wait on these projects throughout the years, that you get these little extensions that go in. So,
and that's, you made a good point there, because what we also would like to do on this particular project, because we're looking at right-of-way issues, is to actually go to the zoning and actually do a corridor preservation once we identify a likely route and identify the fact that it will be ultimately a project. Then we can actually lock up a corridor preservation through planning, and that will prevent people from encroaching into it too.
thank you, sir. Mr. Thompson.
Bill, if we go that total route, what Councilman Kluwat and Councilman Lambert talking about, what would be the cost to do that total project?
Well, and that's another reason for holding back, because we're reevaluating the extension levee altogether, about the height, how big the structure actually need to be to give protection to the people that's behind the wall or the levee. Originally, it was designed to go 100% Corps of Engineer certified levee. We're looking at it now, and again, we don't look at a substantial levee. We don't look at anything like the old levee at Law Ridge. It'd be a lot lesser structure, because again, you're in higher ground, and you're not looking at going 8 and 10 foot levee. You're only maybe looking at a 4 or 5 foot in some locations. So we're reevaluating that levee altogether. The main point of the cost, and that's why I'm being kind of vague on it, because I really don't have those figures. The main point of the cost would be floodgates to allow the flow to go in and out during normal times, and we'll be able to shut them for flood, backwater flooding from the river. And those are pretty substantial costs, and they have to be located exactly where we don't know now. And once they're located, then we'll have to put a cost on the construction of them. So again, I don't have a cost because there's a lot of variables that's in here that we're going to be looking at over the next several months to come back to the council with better information.
Any other discussion? Mr. Shake Snyder.
Bill, I understand what you're talking about with total costs and everything, and as we do that, but I would certainly like that our ultimate design would be that we have completed to the top-notch standards, so that we have something to work towards. And as the monies is received, we might get federal monies or matching funds, then we can do it in phases, that we all know that this is the first phase or whatever. Because one of the problems that I've had in the past, for example, we built the levee, that existing levee that we had, and no one received any any benefit for insurance, because it wasn't quite to the specifications that needed to be to get insurance benefits. So I just want to make sure that we all have a certain goal that we want to reach one day, that everybody knows exactly what it is, and cost constraints is going to restrict us until we can do that. So I'd just like to know what is needed to meet that criteria, where we follow the Corps' restrictions, and that we would all receive insurance benefits because of that, because it is substantial.
And I guess I said something that actually is not that accurate. We are going to build it to Corps of Engineers specification, but I think the first assumption was that it was going to be very similar to the old existing levee as far as in size. And the original estimates of about $15 to $20 million, $18 million, whatever it was based on it being of that size. After reviewing the situation with CDM, now they got a better understanding it's not going to be that big, and it can follow the highland, and the elevation is much higher once we get around there. So it will be built to Corps standards, but not to the old levee height standards.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, Kent, what we're trying to do, and it'll continue to come back to this board for updates, what it basically is trying to, everything that we try to do in the future is just what you're talking about. Get it to where it's substantial, and it has some value, added value to the homeowners that are inside the levee system, and that we do have a plan going forward. And
That's it.
try to get a portion nailed down to where it's not going to change, and move on to the next portion.
Yeah. The people are paying for it. I just want them to reap
Yeah.
the benefits of that.
Yeah.
As we continue to try to get federal monies, matching monies, and everything, we need to continue to talk about that, because
Yeah.
People all around the parishes, all around us, are receiving a lot of matching monies and all, and we haven't been receiving any yet. So
Yeah, we're going to try to work hard on that.
we can get some.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr. Lamb.
Yeah, Bill, on the Henderson Bio Pump Station, I was noticing here that they're needing to develop the final load list in May. We will have a better idea of exactly the pump size.
Yes, sir.
Are they going to run a mock drill or anything out there to make sure we...
Well, actually, the purpose of this hydraulics and hydrologic study that they're doing by this outside engineering firm is they are building an actual model of the Henderson Bayou and the Henderson Bayou pumping station. And they're going to run scenarios on the 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 50, and 100-year floods, and seeing how it reacts. And then through that information that we gain from that model, we enable CDM to come back and say this is what's actually needed out there. And that's the whole purpose for it. It's an amazing thing that they're able to do with this model. And it's the same type of model they did up in Vicksburg for the Mississippi River and things like that, to a smaller scale, but it's the same type of actual model.
I think for the board, if possible, we can schedule this where some of the members, I'd like to be involved with this just for the educational part of it. I mean, this is...
Yes, sir. And what we were planning on doing, as soon as we have the actual date of it, we were going to send it out to the commissioners. Anybody that's interested in going to see it, of course, is welcome.
Yeah. And one thing else, thank you, Mr. Lamb. One other thing we did is we had CDM go meet with the Amite River Basin and look at the Comite diversion project and what the projected lower flood stage, say at Port Vincent on the Amite River, and see what that'll do for us, and they'll report back to us on that. So all those come into play on that. Any other discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Brooks.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, on the major channel improvements, Beer Rat Ditch, we're finally back on that ditch, digging it, and we're about 1,800 feet to Merritt Evans Road before crossing, and then we have some work to do on Merritt Evans Road with the covers there, but we're trying to get back on schedule with that project. Of course, for litigation purposes, we had to get off. The Bayou North-East, the south phase, we own 2 points of the Bayou North-East, the south and the north end. South phase, we're crossing Church Point Road sometime this week. If you pass down Church Point, you can see where we at on it. I mean, it's a major work going through there. About 1,500 feet to complete that south phase, and we're hoping to complete it within 2 months. And on completion, we'll mobilize to Muddy Creek with that piece of equipment. And we'll start at Muddy Creek Road, because that's where some of the excavate. We get past Muddy Creek Road, it's just an open gully situation, and that's what we'll be studying for the Muddy Creek floodgate, possible floodgate right there. But we're going to be starting there and going up Muddy Creek up toward 44 with that machine. And by on the north phase right now, which is going to be finishing up sooner. North phase is we have north of Bishop Woods at 621, Bishop Woods Road, which is right by 621, and it ends at US 61, and we're on that phase right now. Anticipated completion is about 6 weeks, and on completion we're going to mobilize to Ball Bayou. That's the next thing on our schedule. So that machine going to be going to Ball Bayou at Conway Bayou and start working on that lateral off of Conway. Bayou Francois, right now we're west of LA 44, which is by the old detail building, going west, and that will continue on all the way to Smith Bayou, and then continue on Smith Bayou all the way to Highway 30. So that's a straight run. It's going to stay on that until full completion. The mulching, CSSI, Chem Spray, about 5,000 feet remaining on Conway Canal per the contract. And at that time, they're going to run out of the money, the $100,000 appropriated for it. And then next month, we're coming back to the commission with a recommendation for another task order for them to for another $100,000 probably. But we've got to negotiate. We've got to look at some situations for them to go on to Panama Canal, do the same thing. To finish up Conway, go on Panama. But we'll be coming at the next commission meeting with some more information on that. Regular drainage, we did 5.9 miles of drainage improvements. That's actual ditch digging improvements. And 45.2 miles of weed control, cutting and spraying. And we have a handout, your monthly handout on work orders that's been completed, and work orders in your district, and work orders that's in line for scheduling. And if you have any questions that, feel free to ask. If I can't answer it tonight, we'll get back with you tomorrow. Or feel free to call tomorrow. And Alan Allred with or Ron can answer just if I need a question with regular drainage.
Any questions? Mr. Shake Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill, for the people that had asked, you did say that we're going to be going back. They're cleaning and grubbing on Conway. We're going to be going back behind, and some of the large logs and obstacles that are buried deep, we're going to be taking that out ourselves.
The major drainage crews will be going back behind these people and doing other work in the ditch, actually cleaning some of the mud. Like you said, the major obstacles that might be buried or at the bottom of the canal, and even in some sandbars and some high areas through there, go and dress it up after they completed with it. And as soon as we free up, we've got some equipment coming in, we got an auction coming up, and as soon as some of the new equipment come in, we're going to be mobilizing to do some of this work.
Okay, thanks.
And, Mr. Chairman, unless there's any questions, that's all there is to my report tonight.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Root. All right, we'll move on to item number 7, road bridge cost share.
Number 6.
Number 6.
I apologize. The ad valorem tax
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
resolution.
Yes, sir. Of course, like we mentioned at last meeting, December 31st, the millage, 5 mil tax for regular drainage, which is your weed control and minor, or your regular ditch maintenance, is dependent upon will be up for renewal, and you recommend, resolution last meeting is to go forward with it. Presented tonight is the actual resolution to be voted on, and also to give authorization to place a resolution on the agenda for the Parish Council to consider and authorize.
Motion.
I second that.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Todd Lambert. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion carries. We move on to item number 7, road bridge cost share, De La Cerda Road. Mr. Rue?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, as per policy and procedure memo, actually number 9 is a typo right there. Drainage and DPW cost sharing of the parish road bridges. Each inch of drainage recommends cost sharing with DPW on De La Cerda Road Bridge. And the recommended motion is to authorization to purchase the Contact ALBC, which is aluminum box cover, number 18C, as per quote dated March 24th, 2008, from Contact Construction Projects Incorporated, for a not-to-exceed cost of $34,000 for the De La Cerda Road, and to amend the budget item for 05.063.467 by this amount. And that's our road bridge fund, and I needed amended to reflect the $34,000.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Shake Snyder, second by Mr. Lohr. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposition? Motion carries. Item number 8, road bridge cost share, Muir Road.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. This is the same identical request. It has to do with Mill Road, though. And the authorization is to purchase the Contact aluminum box cover, number 77E, as per quote dated February 19, 2008, from Contact Construction Projects Incorporated, for a not-to-exceed cost of $87,000 for Mill Road, and to amend the budget item 05.063.4067 by this amount.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
So moved by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Benny Johnson. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion passes.
Discussion, Mr. Chairman.
I apologize. Discussion.
Mr. Rue, we are working now with Roddy Road. This is going to be fairly quick, because we don't want Mill Road and Roddy Road, shut down at the same time.
Actually, on the Mill Road and De La Cerda Road, that's being done by in-house personnel by the road department. We'll participate by buying the product, the cover. The Roddy Road is going, I think, going to be done by outside contractor, if I'm not mistaken. We're purchasing helping with the funding of the bridges or the covers at those locations, but I think that's going to be done by an outside contractor. Okay. So it shouldn't have any conflict.
I don't know if you had a.
I guess what we're asking is you're working with DPW for scheduling to make sure they're in control of the contractor, that we don't have both roads down at the same time.
We are in contact with them, and they tell us when we need it or they need it, and we order it.
Order it, good. Yeah. So we don't have a backlog on this.
Right.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Todd Lambert.
Bill, I guess Deputy might be coming too, is Muir Road was going to be a detour route for the two bridges built on Roddy.
Yeah.
So that might be the conflict. It might be he was looking at also.
Right, and that's a priority, is to get that done as soon as it gets in. And in fact, I think the road department's actually looking at doing some prep work in anticipation of the arrival of the cover itself. So when the cover comes in, we can proceed with it. Now, the bad thing about aluminum box cover is it doesn't. In most cases, this size cover doesn't come assembled. We have to assemble it once it gets here, similar to the LA-74 aluminum box, but we actually had to assemble it at the fire station. That takes a little bit of time, but of course we're going to expedite it and do what we can to get it in place so it doesn't push the Roddy Road project back any.
Any other discussion? Thank you. We'll move to item number 9, the acceptance of the low bids for for Quest Construction Equipment for 2008 model Tayuchi TB180 zero-swing excavator equipped as per specifications.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Bids were received by the Purchasing Department March 5th, 2008 for a zero-swing excavator as per specifications submitted by EADW. The lowest qualified bid received from Quest Construction. EADW and the Purchasing Department recommends accepting the lowest qualified bid. Motion, accept the lowest qualified bid of $73,250 from Quest Construction Equipment for 2008 model Takuchi TB180 zero-swing excavator equipped as per specifications.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Bell. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposition? Motion passes. And second part, we have the repair of the mulching machine. Mr. Rue?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. On April 2nd, 2008, the Purchasing Department received bids for upgrades to the mulching machine. The lowest qualified bid was received from Wetlands Equipment Incorporated. EADW and the Purchasing Department recommends accepting the lowest qualified bid.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Yeah. The low bid is actually actually the only bid was for $39,500 from Wetlands Equipment. So,
Thank you, sir. We have a motion by I think Mr. Valentine, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposition? Motion passes. We'll move to item number 10, task order authorization to Alderman and Associates for erosion at Muddy Creek, Manchac Harbor.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is the email I sent out and phone calls I requesting authority to proceed with this task order prior to bringing it to a formal authorization from the Commission. You all agreed to do it. These people, Alderman Associates, are actually out there working right now, taking data and information on exactly what's causing that. We know they're feeling that it is a intrusion of water from another source, but they're actually working on it. But we're bringing it back to a formal authorization to issue the task order tonight.
Second.
I'd like to just
What's
read
the
it real
amount?
quick.
Not to exceed $25,000.
All right. Moved by Mr. Shake Snyder,
Second.
second by Mr. Lohr. Any discussion?
Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Lohr.
Bill, what is the estimated time frame from Alderman and Associates to try to figure out the cost?
Yes, sir. It was about 6 weeks to 2 months from a couple of weeks ago. So now, you know, I'm looking at a max. I'm going to try to pressure them to not go any more than 6 weeks from today, hopefully a month from today, if we can get information back to them quick enough, or they can get their own information. We're working with them on some issues over there. And included in that is also a firm recommendation or recommendations for the solution to the problem. And that's what we're really looking for, because as soon as we get that, we're going to proceed either in-house or subbing it out, outsourcing it to somebody that can get on immediately and solve the situation.
Do we have any backup plan? Do we have any backup plan in case you know, so the bank was just suddenly starts sloughing off again, like any kind of emergency in the 6 week time frame?
Right. But the only thing we can do is, of course, we're going to have to deliver dirt and more riprap and whatever needed to shore it up until the time we're able to go in there and actually solve the problem. So we see another major slough off that's getting dangerously. It's already close to the houses. If it gets any worse from what it is right now, we're going to have to proceed with more riprap, heavy boulders, to hopefully put down there and shore it up for the time being until we get the results.
Great. Well, I appreciate you staying on. I appreciate fellow commissioners approving that in advance. It's definitely a pretty dangerous situation. So, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Mr. Todd Lambert.
Yeah, Mr. Bill.
Yes, sir.
This is the same area where we had the electrical utilities that was in our right-of-way?
Yes, sir.
Had to move. That has getting taken care of?
No. I mean, they moved the box, but it's still utilities, and that may be part of the cause, and that's one of the things that Alderman is investigating. And again, we're going to use their information coming back in as to force, if that is part of the cause, use the report to force Dixie Electric or Demco to move their lines totally from the area, no matter what the cost is. And that's something that they have to do with their nickel. And but we need justification to do it, and that's part of the reason of getting this information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. We appreciate that as a new member. We appreciate you guys bringing up some stuff that really does let us know what had happened before.
No problem.
We have no intention of reinventing the wheel here. Get it solved. All right. Ms. Rue, any other discussion? I think we had a motion. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion passed. We'll move on to item number 11, authorization to begin task order scope of work and compensation negotiations with Volkert and Associates, Muddy Creek Flood Control Evaluation.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. The capital improvement multi-year project included flood protection improvements to the Muddy Creek. You voted on to add this back to the major projects plan. Included in that in the 2008 fiscal year 2008 budget is enough money to go into what we call the phase 0, or just the evaluation and recommendation of what can go there and what would work, feasibility study and so forth. Several years ago, when we looked at the major project for us, Henderson Bayou and the flood station, adding pumps to the flood station, we did an evaluation of some engineering firm by the request of the Commission. And that BKI, CDM, Montgomery Watson, Volkert, and GSA were all rated. Of course, BKI and CDM were higher than Montgomery Watson, Volkert, and GSA, but since then they have received multiple projects with the major multi-year plan. That leaves Montgomery Watson, Volkert, and GSA, and we looked at evaluated those companies, and we're here tonight to recommend that we look at entering into negotiations with Volkert and Associates for the phase 0. And then this is not giving them the contract. This is say let's look authorizing us to begin negotiation and scope of work evaluation and compensation on what it'll cost to get that done, and then come back to the committee after that's given to us.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Dempsey Lambert, second by Mr. Lohr. Discussion. Mr. Shake Snyder.
Bill, what you're saying is that they're going to be investigating now what is the proper avenue for solving this problem, whether we put floodgate, pumps, whatever situation.
Exactly.
That's what we're looking
That's it. Really to define the scope of work, and it's more going to be a feasibility. We're going to look at the location. We're going to look at the height of the floodgates, the standard of the floodgates. Will pumps work there? Will it not work? Will a floodgate be the best thing to do initially, and build it to come back with pumps at a later date, or will pumps help drain the whole basin? And when I talk about the basin, what we're mainly concerned is past Highway 44 of Muddy Creek when you get into the Prairieville area, Prairieville School area, and Henry Road, all through there, because that's where most of our problems are. And so they're going to look at the whole situation and see if, in fact, pumps will benefit that area once we get it dredged and for flash flood type situations. But again, this is just the final scope of work.
They're giving us options and costs, basically.
That's right. Okay. Option and cost, and some kind of feasibility, the cost doing it compared to the benefits of cost-benefit analysis of one to the other.
Mr. Rue, I'd like to request if we had any work done in that direction before, that is, if we had any surveys, anything done before in that.
Not at that location and not for that project.
If we did, pull it back up and take a look at it, we might save ourselves a little time and money.
No. And also, I'd like to add, Mr. Chairman, that this was one of the recommendations going back to that 83 plan, from 85 plan from the other major project. And so they saw a need in at that time. We just reevaluating and have justification either doing it or not doing it at this time.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? No discussion? Will you read the motion?
Yes, sir. The motion is to authorization to begin task order, scope of work, and compensation negotiations with Volkert Associates for Phase 0 of the Muddy Creek Flood Control Project.
Thank you. I just wanted to reread it. We have a motion on the floor and we have a second. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion passes. We'll move on to item number 12.
Mr. Chairman, last month we discussed this matter in executive session. Y'all gave me some parameters to settle. I have settled the case at, need authority to settle the case at $75,000. Last month y'all gave me authority to settle it at $70,000. I went back and got $5,000 more. So I need authority to do such, and authority for the chairman to sign the documents.
We have a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert.
Second.
Second by Mr. Shake Snyder. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposition? Motion passes. Move on to item number 13, renewal of contract between the Drainage District and Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office for the inmate crew. Mr. Rue.
Yes, sir. This is a long-standing agreement that we had with the Sheriff's Office, and basically we asking renewal of the contract. The only exception to the contract is that, and as part of the contract, give a 4% raise to the deputy that is in charge of the crew. But also we are extending the contract to a 2-year term instead of 1 year. And because we don't have to keep coming every year, we're going to go for 2 years on it. And we recommend approval of this contract.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Lohr.
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. Move on to item number 14, the annual purchasing contract approval. All steel rail car, flat cars used for channel crossings. Mr. Rue.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is an annual agenda item. We take bids to buy these rail cars. It's a flat car, steel flat cars used for canal crossings. I only had one submit a bid, and that's from All Steel Railroad Bridge Deck Company, Diversified Rail Car. And we recommend accept the bid of $170 per linear foot delivered for all steel rail car decks between the length of 50 and 89 feet from Diversified Rail Car.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Shake Snyder, second by Mr. Bell. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. I would like to take, before we
Mr.
adjourn,
Chairman.
I want a short time. Mr. Bell, you would like
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to announce to everybody our president could not be here tonight. He's, lo and behold, of all things, he's throwing the first pitch out for baseball tonight. They're starting our league tonight, so we hope he reached home plate, but that's where he's at. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Move on to item number 15, adjournment. Motion adjourned by Mr. Lohr, second by Mr. Cullen. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion passes.